Luo, he can actually manage 10 powerful clones? Yushui Kingdom Lord wasn't surprised that there were other clones. After all, when he was in the Chaos Realm, the outside world knew that Luo Feng possessed clone techniques. But in the battle just now, anyone could see the power of Luo Feng's clone. Luo Feng was able to cross the ranks with the first level of God King REA precisely by relying on the strength of his physical body. It was difficult to control such a powerful physical body. Normally ones can only perform some stupid moves, but Luo Feng has to harness 10? This Luo He's strength, could it really be close to even me? Yushui Kingdom Lord couldn't believe it. Luo Feng is only in the first level of God King. Sitting Mountain Guest watched the scene in shock. Could it be comparable to second level of God King that has accumulated quite a bit of strength? Harnessing 10 clones at the same time is much harder than harnessing one clone. A party of forces on the Origin continent were watching. Strength was gaining through fighting, not bluffing and scaring it out. In the sky, the incredibly large Tianquan Kingdom Lord looked at Luo Feng from afar and said in a cold voice, "I'd like to see how much strength you can exert by harnessing 10 clones at the same time. Come on." Each of the 10 silver-robed Luo Fengs was as high as heaven and earth, standing in front of Huyang City. This is City Lord Luo? The guards at the gates of Huyang City, as well as the countless people within the city, looked up at the 10 identical silver-robed figures that were as high as heaven and earth, only to feel shocked. This kind of terrifying existence was afraid that a single breath would be the annihilation of hundreds of millions of living beings. Master's strength is already stronger than me. Morosa's clone stood on the pavilion of the City Lord's mansion and looked at it from afar. I was birthed from the destruction origin, and I am even a perfect life form. So how was I suppressed by the master at the same level? Morosa's moves were all bestowed by the Great Tao of Destruction Origin, and his methods were limited to the Great Tao of Destruction Origin. Luo Feng himself practiced the 3 Great Taos of life, destruction, and the fused, birth and death. And the transformation method had also allowed Luo Feng to master some of the Great Tao of matter origin methods, and he had also exchanged several special inheritances in the Treasure Land Infinite Space, so that he could learn from the wisdom of his previous generations. This was the advantage of cultivators. The lower limit might be low, but the upper limit was also infinitely high. I hope my master gets better food and I become a second-level God King as soon as possible, Morosa thought. His advantage was that he was able to go all the way straight to the ultimate level God King. The disadvantage was that he was weak in terms of cultivating on his own. After all, he was lying down for a lifetime. Forcing someone to cultivate independently was also a bit too much. This was also the reason why the 2 ancient kingdoms valued the Lord of the 10,000 Worlds and despised the World Beast of the Heavenly Wood Kingdom. The 10,000 Worlds Kingdom Lord was the one who had realized a complete origin Tao on his own, and was completely capable of going even further, surpassing the ultimate level God King. As for the World Beast, the possibility of surpassing the ultimate level God King was negligible. All parties were watching the battle. The 10 silver-robed Luo Feng stared at the Tianquan Kingdom Lord, and their battle intent was also high. He wasn't lying. This was indeed his strongest strength. Without using any weapons, his strongest strength was divided in 2 forms. The first, harnessing a complete world life form's true body, could have incomparably majestic energy reserves, terrifyingly recovery energy blades, and a move that was extremely powerful and terrifying. But the moves were stupid and were easily teased. The second type was to control 10 clones at the same time. Each clone was able to utilize 70% of its strength, and was also able to perform more common God King level moves, and work together with formations. The strength and the mysteries of the moves get a perfect balance, and are more suitable for dealing with various difficulties. Of course, when harnessing the true body of a world life form, the energy was strong enough to be more suitable for the use of weapons. If he uses the Blood Shadow Blade, the power can still be increased by a cut. If he uses the Star Tower, it is even more of a drastic increase in strength. Star Tower, Luo Feng's true body has been practicing in it, and has also been studying and pondering over it, only to feel that its suppressing, sealing, heavy, solid, and other abilities can't touch the upper limit. The stronger Luo Feng himself is, the stronger the Star Tower can be utilized. Luo Feng didn't even understand why the Star Tower was so strong. This was no longer something that could be explained by a God King weapon. Luo Feng didn't dare to utilize the Star Tower even at the first level God King for a moment. The 10 silver-robed Luo Feng moved at the same time. In an instant their bodies merged into heaven and earth, appearing around the Tianquan Kingdom Lord like an instant. Harnessing 10 massive clones are all capable of performing such an escape technique? The heart of the Tianquan Kingdom Lord sank as his bloody eyes became more and more maniacal, and his bloody mouth, which occupied a third of his body, opened once again. This roar was like the heaven and earth shaking with rage, emitting the roar of annihilation. The roar rippled across the area, great mountains became pieces of powder, the earth was also shattering as a huge abyss appeared, and this roar made the 10 silver-robed Luo Feng was also impacted. Luo Feng's robes all started to break, but Luo Feng still had a calm expression. He even turned his head to look into the distance. The wilderness beyond was few and divided, although the living beings were rare. But this roar of the Tianquan Kingdom Lord had too large a range. It still managed to reach a tribe in the distance. It was a tribe of thousands of living beings. This one tribe looked into the distance in fear. They saw the black ripples formed by the roar. The black ripples were like the waves of the sky and earth sweeping in, carrying an endless destructive intent. Father! The children were crying in terror. One of the true gods also looked at this scene in despair. Under Luo Feng's gaze, the world power wrapped around the entire tribes, completely shifting the entire buildings of the tribes all at once, transferring them to a wilderness closer to Huyang City. Fighting with me and still distracted. The Tianquan Kingdom Lord was shocked and furious, and after the sound waves from his roar swept through the 4 directions, they returned to continue transmitting in the area of the battle. The Tianquan Kingdom Lord's wings shook as he pounced on one of the Luo Feng clones. The 10 Luo Feng clones actively surrounded him from all around. In one exchange, one of Luo Feng's clones stumbled back a few steps. However, the other 9 clones had already surrounded him. The Tianquan Kingdom Lord's tail flicked. With a flash of light, heaven and earth seemed to be 2. Luo Feng was still prepared for one of his clones to be split into 2. However, the other clone was hardened by the heavy blows it received and held onto that tail. The clone that was split in 2 healed in an instant and recovered as before. One clone held the tail tightly, and the other clones attacked one after another. Roar, roar, roar. Tianquan Kingdom Lord roared with a burst of sound waves. The sound waves that had roared out earlier had returned, and at this moment the Dao sound waves continued to superimpose, forming a vast field of sound waves. Each of Luo Feng's clones had a ghostly figure, like walking in the darkness, and all of them were valiant and resisted the sonic impact. Die! Tianquan Kingdom Lord's wings shook violently. A golden sword flew out from the depths of his wings. Hundreds of golden swords were extremely sharp, one by one. They penetrated through many Luo Feng's clones, stabbing out a hole. It was just that Luo Feng's body was as high as heaven and earth. These holes were too small and not worth mentioning. They healed in an instant. Reincarnation of life and death. One of Luo Feng's clones held onto the Tianquan Kingdom Lord's tail for dear life, not letting go no matter how hard he was beaten, restricting the killing move that did the most damage, Skybreaking Tail. The other 9 clones executed the reincarnation of life and death formation and frantically surrounded the Tianquan Kingdom Lord. The main body of the Tianquan Kingdom was huge, dragging Luo Feng by his tail, and was still extremely powerful. Roars burst out, the sonic field constantly attacked with 100 swords, hitting Luo Feng over and over again. Invasion. The wings with a wingspan of 300 trillion kilometers fluttered recklessly, destroying the sky and the earth. Occasionally there were also great extinction golden light attacks at the top of his head. But even though the 10 great clones of Luo Feng were bruised and battered, they still carried their injuries and attacked like crazy. Luo Feng's body was too strong. Even if he performed some God King level moves, the several clones combined to tear off chunks of flesh and blood from the Tianquan Kingdom Lord. Scales and armor were flying. Blood and flesh were dripping, with a large number of wounds. The Tianquan Kingdom Lord's injuries were likewise being repaired. Each of his 10 clones is so difficult to deal with. Tianquan Kingdom Lord was also finding it hard to deal with. He felt that each and every one of Luo Feng's clones were definitely hegemonic level strength, even more than the very difficult kind of hegemony. This scene caused all parties to watch in silence. The Tianquan Kingdom Lord and the 10 Luo Feng clones were all badly injured with each other, crazily sparring with each other. But they knew very well because both sides were very strong in terms of physical body before they dared to do so. Tianquan Kingdom Lord's physical body is known to be strong. Luo he actually sparred with him without the slightest fear. The first level God King can be this strong? In the area where the two sides were fighting, a sonic field enveloped the area. The power of the world spread, and the aftermath of the battle rippled out, destroying the sky and the earth. In the midst of a dimness, the Tianquan Kingdom Lord suddenly retreated. His huge feathered wings shook, and in an instant, he disappeared from the spot, dragging Luo Feng's clone that had already vanished into the distance, far away from Luo Feng's other 9 clones.
Stop.
Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord said in a low voice. Luo Feng's clone also put down the huge scaly tail he was holding tightly. This one tail was too terrifyingly powerful, but once it was held, the threat slipped greatly. The other clones of Luo Feng also instantly arrived close by, still surrounding the Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord. All the wounds on the 10 Luo Feng's bodies disappeared, and their robes were restored to as good as new. The wounds all over the Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord were also healing. The scale armor was also all growing back. Both sides seemed to not be able to see any injuries. You said stop, so it stopped? 10 Luo Fengs looked at him. The Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord looked at the 10 Luo Fengs around him and said, I recognize that you have the strength to intervene in this matter. So the 2 kingdoms will stop the war from now. You want to start a war? Then you start the war. You want to stop the war? Then you to stop the war? Luo Feng looked at him. Before you wanted to step on my Huyang city. Now you want to pretend that nothing happened? Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord looked around. What do you want? Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord, you said it yourself. Some things are done and you have to pay the price. 10 Luo Feng stood there as the world power spread, but the range expanded rapidly, spreading drastically towards the scope of the Food Kingdom from the center of Huyang City, enveloping the surrounding 10 chaos states. Luo Feng's world life form, true body world power, could have enveloped 16 chaos states. The Food Kingdom also had 12 chaos states that were more or less covered. Some were 100% covered, some were covered by 1/3 of the area. Luo Feng selected the 10 nearest territories. Yushui Kingdom Lord gave me 10 territories. Food Kingdom. I'll take 10 territories as well. 10 Luo Feng looked at the Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord. Take it as the price for your Food Kingdom. If you agree, then we'll stop the war. If you don't agree, then the war will continue, and I'll rely on my own abilities to take the territories.